is what I said to them. I noticed you guys aren't very good at social media. Little did I know, I walked into the stingiest cafe that ever existed who weren't paying their rent.
Welcome to Day in the Life podcast. We decided to launch this podcast because we're super passionate about helping other people discover their divine purpose and helping guide them into doing exactly what they're called to do and help them find their potential and passion. Hey guys, and welcome to episode 2 of Day in the Life. We're so excited you can be with us, and we're more excited to have our guest Jai Bevan on the show with us. So Jai, tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got into that.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. So cool. I love what you guys are doing. So exciting. So I'm a content designer or a content creator.
Yeah.
And what I do is I design graphics and videos for social media. And I do things outside of social media too. So print media and things of that nature.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
How did you kind of get into that? Or what sort of, did you study for it? Did you just get some skills doing something else?
For sure. I definitely did not study for it.
Yeah.
I've always found it really hard to sit down and concentrate on one thing and do sort of the systematic approach to learning something. I just find I think because I'm naturally an artist, it's really easy for me to learn something as I do it, as a painter would, you know.
Yeah, wow.
A painter wouldn't necessarily sit down and study painting, but they would just get a canvas and start painting, and that's how they would learn. So that's sort of how I learned design.
Yeah, okay.
So
That's awesome.
yeah, I just sort of sat down and did a really quick course that showed me how to use the actual software. But mostly, and that took less than a week. But mostly I just sort of started designing and just figured it out on the way.
That's cool.
Wow.
Were you someone who enjoyed school and that kind of school system and so on? Or because
No, I
obviously you
definitely
said you learned a certain way.
I definitely didn't. I tried to drop out in year 10 and my parents sort of wouldn't let me. So I went to another school for one day and then I felt so uncomfortable that I left the school. I walked out.
Really?
And went back to my old school and I just said, hey, I didn't like the other school. Can I go into year 11? Because I failed year 10. And I don't know how, but I hacked the system and they just let me into year 11. They were like, okay, here you go. Here's the class again.
Wow.
And so I walked into year 11 and I finished that. I sort of matured in that stage. So I sat down, I did my best. I was in Prevo, English, pre-vocational, the dumb class, quote unquote.
The dumb class.
Yeah, is what they called it back when I was in school.
Yeah.
But I did Prevo English, Prevo Maths, just to sort of smash it and get through and finish school. And so I finished school and went into a job at Mackie D's.
Yep.
Dude, I'm the same.
Yeah?
Yep.
McDonald's, it's like character building.
Yeah, it is 100%.
Did you learn a lot at McDonald's? That's what we want to know.
Oh yeah, I learned a lot at McDonald's. I actually became the manager at McDonald's.
wow.
cool.
Worked my way right up there.
Was this McDonald's Coolum?
Yeah,
Yeah, how good is that?
it was good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny that you know that.
Yeah, how do you
I'm
know
pretty
that?
sure I knew you there. I don't know.
I think.
No, because
Yeah.
he worked with a friend. of
Mutual
ours.
friends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
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 I became a manager at the Coolum one, and then I moved to the Nambour one, and that's when I realised my calling was not at McDonald's.
So what did you do after that?
What did I do after that? So after that, I actually got really involved in drugs in that season of my life. So I started taking steroids, smoking weed.
I think I've seen a photo of you jacked.
Yep.
It's
yep.
funny as.
In my prime. No, not my prime. But I got really into drugs and I ended up getting really heavy depression. So I had to leave my job there and just have a huge break. And I just did nothing for a bit, to be honest. Just sort of bummed around, which was interesting, and went through the ups and downs of life for a season. And then that was actually a really long season where I was just sort of stuck, just doing drugs. And then I got offered a job as a delivery driver at a pizza shop.
Cool.
And it was literally the best job I've ever had because,
Really?
I just would rock up stoned
all
Did
the
anyone
pizza.
get their pizza or did you just eat it all?
I got fed free pizza, so they kept me at bay.
so funny.
But I just rock up, deliver pizzas. It was easy as, it was low stress. I came from like a really stressed out situation. So like low stress was really good for me.
Yeah.
And it was great. I just delivered pizzas and I was able to sort of like heal myself and get myself back on track. And
Yeah.
so that was good. And then I got into being like a carer for my grandparents at that point.
Oh, yeah.
And I did that for about 5 years. And it was at that point I started going to church. So it was,
Wow, really?
yeah, a lot of different
So,
things.
Off air, we were talking a little bit about, like, prior to this episode, you were talking about how you did go to university, and I think you did a year. So
Yep.
when was that? When was that in the timeline?
So that was when I moved to Melbourne in 2019. I started uni in 2020.
Yep.
And when I came into Melbourne and I moved there, I really wanted to get my life sort of on track and organised. And I had a mentor tell me that, you know, if you're going to do the journey of life well, you need to have a career because
Right.
provision's important, which I totally agree with. And I just thought, well, what are my gifts? I'm good at teaching. Like I'm a good communicator. I'm good at teaching. I like young people. I was a youth leader at the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. It's good money. It would provide stability. It's part of my gifting and I like young people. So I applied to be a primary school teacher because I thought everyone in high school is probably taller than me because I'm 5'7". So I was like, surely the little kids are shorter. I can boss them around.
That's so funny.
Can I just say, you are so amazing. Like, you're so reflective. You have that ability
Yeah,
to be like,
it's true.
okay, I'm good at this. I'm not so good at this, but I feel like I'd be
That's so important
good
to
in
be
this
able to do that.
situation. Like, that's amazing. Like, that's the
thanks.
kind of trait that we need more of.
No, it's
More
true because
reflective.
otherwise you just end up falling into things. So like at least you picked that on the premise of like, I think this is going to work for me because of this, this and this.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then like how did that go like as you kind of went into uni and
Yeah, well, I tried to make the decision out of wisdom and like someone guiding me. But I think at the end of the day, it's just I just purely didn't know enough about myself. Like I hadn't been through enough things to figure out who or how I operate best in the workplace setting. Because you got to remember that I've never even had a proper career of any type before at this point. Like I worked in McDonald's, but I was 16 until 21. So what, you know, you don't really know much at that age.
True.
And so I think you do if you've been raised really well. But
Stable family.
Yeah, you had a stable family
voices
life.
of like mentoring voices guiding you. Yeah.
Correct.
totally.
Yeah. Which I didn't have. So yeah, it was just like a decision I made out of just a next step. It was just like, I need to make a next step. And so I made one.
Yeah.
And it went really well. Actually, I got high distinctions in my first year.
Ah,
Come on.
The whole time I got high distinctions. And I really like,
Hang on, wait, what were you studying?
primary
I was-
school teaching.
Yeah.
Oh, primary school teaching. Okay, cool. Sorry.
Yeah.
I missed that.
and yeah, I just hustled my way through it and just tried my best.
What made you go at the end of the year like this isn't for me?
So that's really interesting because I got a job at a place called Legoland Discovery Centre. It sounds really cool.
I know some of this. This is awesome.
It sounds really cool. So it's basically like a place where you can go and like you take your kids and it's like a theme park, an indoor theme park.
Whoa.
Zeph would love this.
Yeah, they would. Kids love it. They
Wow.
go mental.
Yeah, yeah.
And everything's Lego. And so I got a job there and I just like realized how strongly I was an introvert because you're dealing with kids all day.
Yeah.
Like all day, full on, and they have this track that's going on all day.
The same song.
The same song.
Oh, what is that song of the Lego? Every day is awesome.
Dude, I would
Everything
lose my
is
marbles
cool.
if I had to work somewhere that
Is
just
that the
played.
song?
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, dude.
It was part of that. And then there was
That's
another
awesome.
one and it was like no lyrics, but it was just like a song that was high pitched that played all day.
Overstimulation to the max.
Oh my gosh. So it was the combination of being overstimulated constantly, coming home really drained, dealing with really hard parents, dealing with super energetic kids.
Oh.
Bro, you're just describing a primary school teacher.
Whoa, that
Yeah.
makes so much sense now.
And that's what I realized. I was like, what am I doing? I'm going to hate primary school teaching.
So funny. So that's literally how you made the decision.
Yeah, I just thought this is not good for my energy levels. I'm not going to be able to sustain this over a long term.
Yeah. But again, that's what Sienna was saying. It's awesome that you have the ability to reflect
Yeah.
to that degree rather than going, hey, oh no, I've done a year. I need to finish all 3. I've got to push through this, get to the end.
Yeah.
When some people might do that, do a year of teaching and then quit. And it's like, you have a bigger HECS debt. You've spent more time doing something you don't like.
Yeah.
It's good that you're able to actually.
Like I shared a little bit of
point.
my testimony when I pulled out of uni after like 3 months, and I was like, I suck. I'm going to commit suicide. Like I hated myself for failing. But like you're so wise. Like you've just been able to be like, well, no, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next thing. It's so funny. When I was working at Mass Nutrition, I remember someone, because I just have conversations with everyone like all the time, and someone said to me, in an average person's life, you have about 7 different careers. And I remember hearing that and being like, wow, that's amazing. Like there's hope for me. And I mean, statistics have probably changed now. Like maybe it's more than that. But to know that, it was really encouraging that not everyone just has it figured out. And they're like, all right, I'm going to be like, one day I'm going to be this, and I'm just going to devote my whole life. What's that thing? It's like that 10,000 hours thing. You become an expert at something if you do it your whole life. How rare would that be to find a person that's just stuck something out their whole life and got to, I don't know, that point where they wanted to be. I mean, it is
But
rare.
I love
and that's okay to not be like that. But I didn't know that.
Yeah. I like your story because it's like what's gotten you today. I guess like talking about you've been at Macca's, started to study primary school teaching, worked at Lego World, like was a delivery driver, all those things. Do you see anything from those things that you've done, like maybe skills you've learnt, different attributes you picked up in all the different jobs that you've done to get you to where you do it, like what you're doing today?
I was actually also a musician, which I just forgot about.
I remember that,
for a few years, where I got paid as a freelance musician. But out of all
what
those,
did that entail? Did you go to like
I was just
cafes?
I went to gigs and cafes
weddings,
and
you did
bars,
weddings,
weddings.
singing? Yeah, how cool.
That was really fun. I actually really enjoyed that. But I think, that was just like I stopped that because I just, when I got saved, I just really felt God say, just leave that behind, like sing for me. That's a different story. But what I learned from all those jobs, and I really didn't like most of those jobs that I had. So for me, it was not really what I learned about what I'm good at. It was more learning what I'm not good at.
Yeah.
Which I've been told is actually a lot more, just as valuable.
Oh, totally. Yes.
So, and that discouraged me for a long time, because when I came back from Melbourne, I devoted all this time to building the house of God, and sort of put my career life sort of on hold for a bit. And I just went into, I'm just going to build the house of God. I'm going to try different things and different career paths, and nothing worked out. And I really struggled with coming back and feeling empty-handed. And so something that I'm still trying to work through is just understanding that whole season of careers that didn't work out and just felt like a struggle is actually, what I learned from that is I've learned what I'm not. And so now all I've got left with are pieces of what I actually am. And so,
that's awesome.
I learned that I'm not.
That's so good.
I learned that I'm not an extrovert. I learned that I have a smaller social palette than I'd probably would have liked. I've learned that I don't work well in a system and a structure that's generally normal or considered normal. I work really well on my own. I work well when I'm making my own money. All these things, and I learned that from having really bad careers and making bad career decisions. And it's
awesome.
Yeah, it's starting to just turn around now where I'm like, oh, well, this is who I really am. And now I can take advantage of that.
But it's so true. If you didn't do those things, you wouldn't be where you are today in terms of knowing what you know and understanding yourself. And because we were kind of talking about this last episode, how even though you're like, say my ultimate goal and whatever career aspiration was to be a doctor, when I wasn't being a doctor, that wasn't wasted time, like I was learning things about myself, learning what I didn't like, learning what I did like, but also learning other skills as well in jobs that I never thought that I would benefit from.
For sure.
Like even just like working at Macca's, I was like back area guy and like learning open communication.
Yeah.
And learning how to actually like just work as a team and those kinds of things was just like super, like it's what I do now. Like,
yeah. It's such a vibe though, isn't it?
Yeah.
In the back area.
Kind of. You just leave greasy and like, oh man.
I like have that picture of like a funnel, like when you've got so many different things that you could do. You're a little bit good at all those things. There's potential. There's potential that lies in every little thing that you do, but you've just funneled it down to doing something that I can see you really enjoy. You're really good at. People are paying you for it.
Yeah.
So did you have like an aspiration to become an entrepreneur? Because that's what you are, right? You are an entrepreneur.
Yeah, totally.
Say I'm almost one.
Yeah.
You are. If you've stepped out on your own and become a small
Like
business
you're your
owner.
own boss in a way, right?
For the most part, yeah. I mean, I have a lot of control over what I do and like my time. For me, I define an entrepreneur as someone who like employs people, has things going on. So for me, I would say that's what I'm aiming for. Mm-hmm. But as a strong definition, that's what I would say. But
Cool. Yeah.
yeah, I've always actually looked at Isaac and been like, oh, he's got it all figured out. He's a doctor, scientist. Like, man, I wish I could just like know what I'm doing like that. Like,
Nah, but we spoke about it before in terms of like the stable family structure thing being young. Like, I think that empowered me to make those decisions about what I wanted to do a bit earlier.
Yeah.
And also always had kind of people in my corner backing me, being like, you can do this, you can
Encouraging
me and stuff. So like I was so blessed. Like I felt like I started 5Ks down from everyone else because like I had 2 great supportive parents. So I don't take that for granted.
Yeah.
But likewise, I so believe that like it says in the Bible, God works all things together for the good of those who love him. And I just look at your life, someone who loves God, and he's clearly taken all those things that may not seem good individually and made them all work together to get you where you are now. And it's just such a testimony of like what God can do in a life. And I love it. I love to see that. And the one question I want to ask you actually more because I'm interested because it's such a leap of faith that like I've always been someone who's been employed by people. So I always had that comfort blanket of a paycheck.
Yeah.
But to actually step out into a space where if you don't work, don't come up with ideas, don't get creative, don't like seek out clients and stuff, you genuinely won't get paid and you won't eat.
Yeah.
Like that leap of faith to be self-employed.
That can be quite scary and daunting.
100%.
If you're
was that
way,
big?
like-
And like you've got a wife, like you've got to provide for her. And
Yeah.
was that like something that you wrestled with, or were you like, let's do it, I'm full of faith, I'm good to go? Like,
I've actually always been like that.
Yeah, okay.
Because I left living out of home very late. So I was 25 when I moved out of home to Melbourne. And so I've always had the wiring and the inclination, but also my dad and his dad were both entrepreneurs and business owners.
there you go.
So they've always made their own money. And then my granddad also stepped out on his own. So I've always seen it. So I always knew it was
possible.
Yeah, it's possible. And it's just a wiring in me, I think. I think
I love that.
yeah, I have the capacity to do it and handle the pressure of not knowing. I think I'm just wired that way.
Yeah.
But it's also something that I've developed through like when I was a musician. When I was a musician, I was pretty successful in the local area. As in had constant work. It was great money, like would earn up to, a couple of thousand each week just from, and I just made this money appear out of nowhere. And just by sort of learning a few songs and using the natural gifts that I had to make money. And that showed me that, oh, wow, I actually can do that. Like it is possible if I just start doing it and keep going. Eventually someone will be like, can you do that for me? And I'll pay you. Because not everyone has the gifts that I have and you have,
Yeah.
Like people are
very
different.
Individual.
And so I just like lean on that sort of trust. Yeah, like the trust that, Isaac doesn't have the gift to, or maybe he does, but like he doesn't have the gift to put a video together. So he'd ask someone like me to be like, can you put this video together? So
I'm very quickly learning that. Like, like recently, like stepping out, not so much in the business world, but even just like making a product, it could be the best product in the world. But if you have no idea how to promote it, how to sell it, how to market it, like no one's ever going to buy that product.
I was even just like, we need to get this in people's faces so they actually know that it exists and that they can actually buy this product.
But that's what's actually, that's cool. Did you see like a gap that you were like, this is something that people need and something I'm good at, so something I could like learn and then kind of, I'm just thinking about young entrepreneurs who like think, hey, I want to work for myself.
Yeah.
Like I'm kind of like you where you said you don't really fit in structured systems and you've never really felt content in a job and you would rather work for yourself. If there's young people like that listening that have that kind of inclination, like what would you say?
Yeah, I wish I was that smart, but I'm actually, I can't say it was some big idea that I had that I identified in the market and just went for it.
Yeah.
It was actually, it was just out of prayer, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just praying and I felt God say social media.
Wow.
Really vague. Like it wasn't like I had the business idea and like this is exactly the path I'm going to take. It was
Yep.
just simply a whisper of social media as I was praying. And mind you, I was fasting. I was really crying out to God in this season because I was working a job that was just killing me. It was outside of my gifting. It was outside of my how I operate as a person, my personality. And it was just killing me, and I just could not do it any longer. And I was just like, I need to pray about this. I need to get my career life sorted.
Wow.
And so I spent hours in prayer just crying out like, God, give me a career. God, give me a career. God, give me a business. God, give me a business. Started fasting, and I went for this job that I thought was my the breakthrough moment. And it was like social media manager of this coffee company, super cool and trendy. I was like, this is it. I got in out of 80 resumes. Me and Alex, my wife, just put together a perfect resume, shot it off, got through. I was one out of two of the last interviewees, smashed the interview. I was like, this is it. I've done it.
Yeah.
God's come through.
Yeah.
Had the interview that day on a Friday, went to date night with my wife on that same Friday, driving to date night babe.
Celebrated.
We're crushing it. This is it,
Pop the champagne. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. I was like, I can't believe it. I've prayed my way into my destiny. I've actually done
awesome.
it.
Wow.
Email comes up as we arrive to the date night spot. You've been denied. Sorry.
Was
Have
it a
great
fun
life.
date?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
and
right.
I was just like, man, I'm a failure.
Oh,
I just felt because I'd tried everything at that point. It was just I just can't do anything more. I'd applied for 50 jobs.
Wow.
I was just I can't do anything more because I didn't even have any skills at that point. It was just I knew a little bit of graphic design. I knew a little bit of how social media worked, and I was like, I'll just figure it out. And I just got denied, and I was like, well, that's it. I can't do anything more. And then I was praying. I just went back to praying, and God said social media, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to start content creating for cafes. I'm just going to go in. I'm just going to walk into a cafe and be like, I'm a content creator.
You are so cool. I just love you,
Yeah.
Jai. It's
That's
so cool.
I was like, I'll just do it. I'll just make it happen. And then God whispered to me, go to house sitting, start house sitting, pack your rental up, move back to the Sunshine Coast and house sit. And I was like, wow, that's hectic. I don't think my wife will ever let me do that.
Yeah.
So I told Alex, I was like, do you want to do this? And God just turned her heart, and she was like, let's do it.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, this must be God because
Yeah.
my wife loves her house. She loves stability. So that was the first sign. I was like,
Yeah, wow.
okay, we're doing this. Moved back to the Sunshine Coast. I had 3 months off because I was exhausted. And I walked into this cafe. We stayed at this house, and I saw this cafe, and I said, I'm just going to walk in there and be like, hey, I'm a content creator. I just borrowed a camera from a family member, and I walked in and I was like, hey, I just know, this is what I said to them. I noticed you guys aren't very good at social media.
How was that received?
He was just like, oh yeah.
That's how you do it. That's how you do it.
Yeah. But I think the thing was I just walked in because I knew God wanted me to do it. I was like,
That's true.
God wants me to do this. And I don't care how unskilled I am, how bad my words are. I'm just going to do what God
for it.
says.
What have you got to lose?
I had nothing to lose. I wasn't.
Exactly. Worst case, someone says, no, we're good.
Yeah. And so I'll walk into another cafe.
Yeah.
And so I was just determined. I just walked up and I said, hey, I'm going to do do you guys want content made for you? And they were like, oh, sure, I'd love for you to help us out. Little did I know, I walked into the stingiest cafe that ever existed who weren't paying their rent. And they're like, we can't pay you anything. And I was like, oh.
No.
I was like, all good. I'll do it for free because I need the experience. I did it for a
That's
month
cool.
for free. And then they paid me $100 for the month the next month and $100 for the month after that. I did it for 3 or 4 months. And that was enough to just get a client, a portfolio,
Start to get some skills.
get some skills, learn how to manage social media.
But how cool that you walked in and you were just like, I'm willing to do this for free for a bit. Because often people see the money as the only benefit, but you saw the skills and the actual doing as
Correct.
Do not
as,
despise
so
humble
beneficial.
beginnings.
Right.
It's a humble
And
beginning.
it's not about money. I think that's it's not a good motive to have when you're starting out.
True.
You have to have my motive was I want to learn how to build a career and be a creator. I want to use my gifts and
Yes.
live my life on that.
Yeah.
And then I got a job at All In Creative, the podcast.
Yeah.
That's hosting this,
Shout
the
out All In
studio.
Creative. We love them.
I was just putting out designs. because I was just like, I'm just going to start designing every day, do like a 30-day challenge, put out designs every day.
That's awesome.
Now, okay, this is really cool. I remember Isaac was telling me a little bit about this. I don't think I've asked you. I don't even think I've asked Alex, but this story is really, really cool. And I want people to hear this because...
Would you start with 200 followers?
So with 500 of my own followers, like friends and people that know me. And then
so you did this 30-day challenge.
We changed your Instagram page to a business page.
Correct, yeah. I didn't have the idea. It really was God, like just whispers from God that I've done. Anything that I've done has just been whispers from God.
Yeah.
Because I honestly just don't know what to do until I ask God.
Yeah.
And so I started with 500 followers and I just felt God say, turn your page into a business page, because I was just posting. It's like, why do people want to see photos of me at the beach? Like, who cares?
Coming to this
That's so
revelation.
true. Wait, you asked, at what point did you ask ChatGPT what to do? I remember you telling me this. This was cool.
I like had all my thoughts and I just posted it into ChatGPT and I just said like, what do I do to build my career? And I just posted all these thoughts I was having.
God bless AI.
And it gave me like a list of 10 steps and I read it and I was like, oh, that actually makes a lot of sense. But I felt
so
God on it too. I felt God say,
it.
Well,
like,
he was the one
use
that told
this.
you to do that in the beginning.
Correct, yeah. And one of them was do a 30-day design challenge. And I saw this other creator who was a graphic designer do it. And I went through his Instagram right back, someone in America, and they'd grown their account from like 1,000 followers, like nothing, to like 130,000 followers.
Wow.
All he did was post every day.
And how long? Like, how long did that take?
I'm not sure, probably like less than a year.
Wow.
Like a year.
That's pretty phenomenal. That's 100x.
Yeah.
That's like...
He's a good
amazing.
designer, mind you, much better than me. But I just knew, I was like, if I just do that, like something's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I did. I just did a challenge for 30 days. I was just going to put out one bit of content every day for 30 days. And one bit of content I put out, which was a video, like a reel of me designing something, went viral. First time I ever gone viral in my life. And I was just like frothing.
You're like, oh my
You
God.
wake up, have your coffee, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm demand.
I woke Alex up and I was like, babe, we've made it.
That's so funny.
I had like
so
a couple in design inquiries, like, can you design this? And I was like, oh, that's really cool. But it was more just like, wow, that actually worked.
Yeah.
This actually happened.
Yeah. And so that really taught me like, okay, what are the things that got me viral? And so I just sort of started repeating those and I've gone from 500 to 10,000. I just hit
So
10,000 yesterday.
It's like 6 months-ish.
In 6 to 7 months.
That's
So
crazy.
good. It's
yeah.
so good.
And you've
doing
got now a
something
few
that
clients out of it.
Got a few clients. But I think the main thing is like, you know, developing your personal brand, like what I did to develop my personal brand, sort of just gives you a bit of, because I've got no connections, like no network. I started with no network. And so it just gives you a bit of credibility, like, oh, I'm someone who knows what I'm doing, especially if you're working in social media and you don't have a network. It's like, I actually know how to develop a brand from nothing to something. And that's important because that's what
massive.
people buy from.
Yeah.
Right.
But then also you need the network and people to know that you exist.
But that's why people literally buy businesses that are already established, because the art of actually creating something out of nothing like is just so hard.
It's
So
really
that's
hard.
like a wild skill to have.
For sure. And I think that's why you need you sometimes need the wiring of an entrepreneur to be like, I can make something out of nothing. Because if you can't do that, it's going to be really hard to push through those times where just nothing's happening.
Do you find as well, like you really enjoy scoping out like all the new trends, like you seek out how you can find, I don't know, better design equipment. I don't know, what would software is probably the right word.
No,
like,
I hate that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, I think like to my core, I'm an artist. So just like as who I am as an artist, and I think how most creatives and artists are, they don't like trends. They don't like trends. They don't like the popular things.
True.
so individual.
Yeah,
It has this
Authentic.
bent as well, I must admit.
Yeah, it's
Don't
actually
be like everyone else. Like
100%. Yeah. Well, all artists are unique and they want to be seen as individuals.
Yeah, like you've got your own style.
Yeah.
Why would you want to copy anyone else?
Yeah.
Like,
So I find it really frustrating that in some ways you have to do trends to sort of get known.
yeah.
So my strategy is that I do things that are trending.
Yeah.
But then I'll also put out content that is just me and like what I like. And it might get like 30 likes, you know, and it's just like, well, I don't really care because
It felt good.
it's just who I am.
made
and
me happy.
And that's the real me and that's how I design.
Yeah.
But then also the business side of me is like, okay, I've got to do trends because I've got to actually keep up with the market and stay fresh.
Yeah.
And
So how do
it's
you
that line.
go tailoring your personal style and creativity to somebody's, like a client's requirements and objectives and things like that? How would you go?
It's definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think like I always come back to I've just got to like pray into it and just like make sure that I'm like leaning on God's grace to be a designer, because you're constantly like fighting as an artist you're fighting that struggle of imposter syndrome and like, oh, I'm not good enough to design for these guys, or I'm not good enough to sort of like keep up with these things that they're doing, you know. And so I've got to adopt like just like, God, help me to design for these people and like put down my own sort of what do you call it? You know, like motives, like because agencies and businesses and brands already have a design, like a brand that they design with, and I've already got one. So I've got to separate those two, but also add my own flair.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm making
Flavor.
sense, but it's
You are. And I feel like a lot of people that are listening would be able to relate to that.
It's true. And particularly like the creatives that are in jobs that have structure and so on, like finding that right balance of submitting to the system, kind of, so to speak, like you said, like helping businesses that already have a vibe of what they want that you're designing for, but then also still maintaining your individuality and
that's the
being and
struggle.
doing who you want to
Being
be.
original.
That's a real tension.
That is, especially for like people who are deeply creative and deeply individualistic and see themselves as that, you know.
Yeah.
So it is a challenge, but then you got to have two sides. So you got to have your artist side and your business, like your two hats.
Yeah.
So it's walking that line, and it's definitely a struggle.
Yeah.
There's some days where I sit
Balancing.
behind the computer and I'm just like, I just freaking hate what I'm designing right now. Or
Oh,
like,
really?
I just hate that I can't. It's more that I hate that I can't do it. Like,
Right.
can't capture someone's brand essence and then put it forward.
Have you had things that you're like, I think this sucks, and then you've submitted it anyway, and they've
And
been
they've
like, I
loved
love
it.
it.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is what I
They'd be
want.
like,
Like,
this is exactly what I wanted.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah.
I bet you that happens
That
to
must
music
be-
artists and stuff. Like I think
Oh, it
about like
would.
Fred again and stuff. I bet you there's songs that they thought were going to be massive that didn't take off as much, and then
Yeah.
other songs that they're like, oh, and then they've just people
Or
love
they
it.
were going to
Yeah.
keep it in the vault and were never going to release it. And then
Yeah.
they release it and it's like a huge hit.
Yeah.
Yep. For
See,
sure.
it's interesting. I love hearing this conversation because like what you guys are kind of talking about is not necessarily my bent. Like I wouldn't say I'm like massively creative or anything. So like I really like same and structure, stability and that kind of stuff. But it's also really encouraging like hearing you talk about this because it makes me want to be more creative and kind of think about what's my flair on things and how can I do things. Because I mean, I work in a big structured system where you can just become a fish swimming in the current with all the others that look the same, talk the same,
Wear a uniform.
wear a uniform, which all of that is fine.
Yeah.
But actually to just be who I am in those places,
Yeah, for sure.
which is really cool. So,
Yeah.
but one thing I was going to ask is like we were talking about before in terms of your like career and where you've gotten to today. If you were going to like try and give some advice to someone who is thinking, hey, I'm creative and I don't know what to do with it, like what are some ways that you kind of worked out how you could use those
Like there
creative
could be
gifts to
people
make
here that
money?
are passionate about the exact same things as you, passionate about content creation.
Yeah.
Maybe they're
Or even
actually- they
musicians, you've
haven't-
been one of those or
Oh yeah, totally. Like maybe they've got a natural bent to, hey, I want to be my own boss. I actually want to I don't want to work for anyone else. I want to be my own boss. I want to work on my own hours. Like how do I know that that's for me?
It's a really good question. I think you've just got to try and start.
Yeah.
Like I always come back to the scripture, faith without works is dead. So you need to
do something.
you need to understand yourself and how you operate first.
Yes.
Then you need to hear from God to see if it's okay to do it, because you might not be in a season where that's a good thing to do.
Right.
So it's hearing that you get the okay from God, you know? And then the third thing is you just got to step out and start doing it and know that there will be times where you're earning nothing. Know there'll be times when you're really, really discouraged and it feels like it's not working and that you shouldn't be doing it. And there's also going to be times where you just feel like everyone, like pretty much you'll feel very unsupported. But you've just got to have this firm belief that you're doing what you know you should be doing and that God's called you to do.
Yeah, wow.
And not rely on like the accolades from people because they might not be there. Like for me, I basically got no one being like, good job. It's just like.
It's that thing. It's like where if you live for the praises of people, you'll die by their criticisms.
Yeah.
So you can't.
For me in that journey, like from 500 to 10,000, like, and I'm at the very start of my business career and like design career, but just even getting started was one of the most discouraging things of my life, but I knew it was right to do.
Yeah.
But it was just like no support. The only voice I really had in my life that was like, way to go, good job, was my wife and
Wow.
God. That's all it was.
So
and I was
good,
just like,
though.
well, that's enough for me. I just know that I'm going to do this.
And that internal ticker just being like,
Yeah.
this is what I need to do.
Yeah. I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
And it's working out so far. Like it's hit and miss.
Yeah.
Like with income and clients, and you know, you almost get a client and then one drops off and you're like, oh man, was nearly able to afford to live. But yeah, I think you just got to start doing it.
That's cool. That's cool. I remember like discouragement and stuff going into trying to be a doctor, like the entrance exam. I think I sat 5 times and it's just like,
Wow.
and you can only really do it once a year. It's expensive as hell. You've got to prepare for it. And I had so many people that would just do it once or twice and then stop and be like, oh, it's not for me. But same thing. I just had this like inner conviction about being like, I know what this is what God wants me to do. It aligns with like my skills and what I know that I'd be good at it when I start it,
Yeah.
even if I just got to learn on the go. And, but overcoming that discouragement about like you said, you might put in all this work and see no result. I mean, that would be on a mega scale for an entrepreneur because it's like you may do 10 things and none of them work.
Yep. 100%.
You know,
I
it's
think
tough.
like if I look at my journey, like just starting, I mean, I've done a few things for myself, like the music thing. I used to be like, I did something else on social media a long time ago in the new age section of my life.
Yeah.
But I think like that would be the journey as an entrepreneur as a whole. Like, you know,
Yep.
you're really discouraged and then you have breakthrough and then you try the next level and it's really discouraging and then you get breakthrough and then you're on to the next level, and that's just the whole journey, isn't it? Like, so I'm at the first level and I'm sort of getting through like the discouragement, the valley bit onto the next level, and then that'll be breakthrough. And I think it just goes like that. So I'm prepared mentally like for the long journey of how discouraging it could be.
Yeah.
And then also the highs of how good it could be, because there's a lot of good in it too, you know.
Totally.
For me in my wiring, I get to work for myself. I get to make my own money. There's no limit. There's no ceiling on my income. I can be as creative as I want.
Yeah.
All those type of things. So there's a lot of good too.
And there's so much room. I'm not saying you need room for improvement, but there is so much room for
Always.
improvement. And like when your mind is engaged and your heart is engaged to learn something and you actually enjoy it, you learn 2 to 4 times as quick. How cool is that?
Is that true?
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
I know.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah, I know. So when your heart's engaged, when you actually love it and you
Enjoy it.
enjoy doing
Yeah.
it, you learn it so much quicker than if you were to sit and try and learn maths.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I hate maths.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
You know, I sit there and I'm just like, oh gosh, like, hurry up.
Yeah.
Let's get out of here.
Yeah.
That's cool.
100%.
I like to summarize some of the things you've said. I love that you did things for the sake of gaining skills, even when there was no like monetary input from them, or you weren't going to like benefit from it in that way. Like, I love that you're willing to take risk. I love that you're willing to just like back yourself, be willing to fail. Like, all of those things are just so valuable. And I know that there's people here that would be listening and would just reap benefit from that. And so I just feel like a lot of people are going to be inspired by your story, and we're so glad and thankful that you've shared it. And anything else you want to add?
I actually feel, Jai, if you're comfortable, I actually think there might be some people just listening right now that want to step out in boldness, want to step out, be confident, courageous, but just need a little bit of help. So would you be happy to just pray for our listeners and our viewers, people that actually want to step out, do their own thing?
Yeah.
Maybe they've been feeling a little bit timid or anxious or uncertain. So maybe we can just pray for our
That'd be
listeners
awesome.
right
Sure.
now.
Lord, we thank you. God, we thank you that you are the designer of our lives. God, I thank you that you know every single person. You see every single person listening to this. And God, I just pray for all those young people and people of any age listening to this that are struggling with their career life or their thought life in this area, Lord, I just pray divine clarity. And Lord, I just pray that you would speak to the hearts of people, help them to put aside all the things that keep them in bondage in this area of their life. Lord, let them put aside the things that others are telling them, what they're hearing, what they're seeing on social media, what they're seeing on TV and movies. Put all that falseness aside, Lord, and we just pray that there would be an authenticity that would come up in people's hearts, Lord, that they would be able to see and hear from you. You would be able to help them and guide them, find the right career path for them. Lord, I just pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Awesome.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Jai.
Yeah,
so
thank
much
you.
fun.
Thank you. That's been really, really awesome. I love what you guys are doing. It's
good
it's
fun.
so
We just get to
exciting.
chat to cool people.
Yeah, that's
It's
cool.
awesome. We get the best gig ever. We
Yeah.
just get to chat to people. Talk
I
smack.
love it.
Yeah, for sure.
But no, we are just thankful that you guys have listened, and we pray that you get something out of this, and that if you have any questions for Jai, you can follow him on some socials. We'll
Oh,
put that
yes.
in
Okay. Before we go, Jai, where can people find you? So do you have like any like tags, like Instagram? Where can people kind of follow you and see what you do?
Follow me on Instagram. It's JaiFly, @JaiFly, JAIFLYY.
Oh, double Y.
double Y.
Double Y. I've not changed it since doing what I do, and it won't change.
That's cool.
I love it.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Awesome.
All
So
right.
make sure you follow Jai and like and subscribe and hit the bell and all that good stuff.
Hit the bell.
Is that that's
Yeah. We're going to get better at this, guys. Subscribe. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
See you on the next
Bye.
episode.